right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Big Doug and Carmi Show, your one-stop shop for all things Commanders. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification button so that you never miss an episode like today's episode with Neil Orfield. Neil, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you on. Let's see, your first time on the show, Neil. We like to get to know folks, so I'm curious how you kind of got started in this crazy game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing fantasy sports for 30 years now, maybe so since the 90s. Got into it pretty. I actually don't remember how I got started exactly. I know I was playing some leagues with friends early. I got into there was a website called snap.com that would do weekly fantasy contests. I loved playing some of those a long time ago. But then, yeah, I started getting into DFS. So initially, I got into DFS before best ball, started playing around 2010, 2011, obviously after playing in like home leagues for a long time. I got into content after, so in 2021, I hit the Millie, won the Millie Maker on DraftKings. Then that was the first time I'd done any kind of content. And I'm not somebody that like has always loved public. Like I was terrified of public speaking prior to that, but then I was invited on by Awesemo. Alex Baker invited me on because I shouted them out after I won to do just like a short interview. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I did it that week. Was super nervous, said a lot of like, phrases that were like used incorrectly. It was one of those that, didn't go great the first time, but I still kind of enjoyed it. And just enjoyed talking about fantasy sports in general. So then that summer, Jordan Cooper, Blender, had invited me on his podcast. So I did that and started to feel a little bit more comfortable talking about this stuff and realized that like, I think I can talk about this. And like 2 weeks later, two different websites put out tweets saying, "Hey, we're hiring." And two different cousins of mine sent me those things saying, "Hey, you should probably get into this. You'd probably enjoy talking about fantasy football." So yeah, I think that was 2022. I got those messages from my cousins, suggested that I get into it, and I reached back out to Alex Baker. Awesemo was one of them at the time, and he said, "Yeah, I'll put in a good word for you." Ended up working there for a couple years at Awesemo, which became Stochastic, and then while I was there, so I started just doing DFS. But while I was there, I was like, I really like this new best ball game. So I suggested I could do some best ball content for them. Started doing that, and then after I got laid off there year and a half ago, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to launch my own YouTube channel, talk best ball because I really enjoy doing it. And from there, it's just been doing my own channel, working for a lot of different places. That's been fun.
Is that your favorite way to play now?
I still love DFS. So yeah, as far as season long stuff goes, yes, probably it is best ball, but I'm still like obsessed with some of my home leagues. I'm in a league with some local friends here, which I love. Some friends from law school, another league that I'm in a cousins league. I still take those three very seriously, and then in a few more that I take a little bit less seriously. But yeah, I still think DFS is probably number one for me. I don't know if that's true, but best ball is right there with DFS. I think I really enjoy both of them.
We've had a couple of big winners on here over the last couple of months. I'm curious your thoughts. Like, what is the biggest difference between like the casual fan and the guys that are out there trying to knock down the million, other than the buy-in price, of course?
Do you mean for best ball or?
Yes.
Yeah, for best ball, I think the biggest difference is like the casual fan probably doesn't understand all of the like game theory involved or like how to construct a good lineup. I think that the casual fan probably a little bit more concerned about just like player takes. So I think they're making their lineups just around like, these are my favorite players. I want to get these players. They'll reach 5 rounds for a guy and then probably not end up getting all their players because they are reaching for their favorite one first. So I think it's mostly a casual fans just fall into trying to get their guys rather than building the best possible lineup. Whereas people who are a little bit more experienced, who are a little bit more likely to win the big one, like we've seen with Liam, Pat Correa, and those guys, like they put together really good lineups. Like they just know how to construct a good lineup. They're also playing a lot of lineups like I am. So then you can, be a little bit more, have a little bit more range in who you're picking. You don't have to go after your guys quite as much. So it is helpful if you're doing a lot of lineups. But yeah, I think it's just a focus on the lineup as a whole, as opposed to just like, these are the players I want.
How many best ball leagues will you be in by the time we're said and done here?
Probably my guess is I'll be over 1,000 this year.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, that is including, like, different formats like the Eliminator on Underdog, like, some of those, unique formats, but, I mean, I might get there with just best ball because 'cause I'm playing a ton on both Underdog and DraftKings. I haven't even gotten into, like, Drafters yet this year. Maybe I didn't get into it last year because I just ran out of time. If I have time, I'd love to play that too, so, yeah, it'll be almost certainly over 1,000.
Well, Harditz was on here a couple of weeks ago. He told me I need to start getting into guillotine leagues. So I'm working on doing that. Have you gotten into that? I know the
Never played it.
Eliminator is kind of like that, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to try. A lot of people in the in the realm in the world are starting to do that, and it sounds like fun.
Yeah, I've never given it a shot, so I actually don't know exactly how it works. Is it just like the bottom team gets knocked out every week, or
Yep.
I
And then
okay.
that whole team goes into free agency.
Oh, yeah, 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 okay, I have
So,
heard
like,
that does
week
sound
3
super
or 4,
fun.
Lamar Jackson might be there in the free agent pool, right? So,
Yeah,
like,
no,
it's
that
kinda crazy that way too.
that sounds amazing. Yeah, that would be super fun.
So, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
definitely looking into getting into a bunch of those this season.
yeah.
What you I think you touched on it a little bit, but what is the biggest mistake that people make when making builds on best balls?
Probably so there's different ways that people make mistakes. So I think like a casual will probably just like take too many running backs or take too many receivers. So just like, typically I think you want in if you're talking underdog where it's 18 rounds, you want probably 2 to 3 quarterbacks for most of the time, 4 to some up to maybe 7 running backs. And then you want, 6 to 8 receivers, 2 to 3 tight ends. I think that a casual player will oftentimes just veer too far from that. They'll say, I have Brock Bowers. I don't need another tight end. He's going to carry me the whole season. Or I have, Lamar Jackson. I don't need a second quarterback. And I think, you can advance like that. You can do just fine. So it's not like the end of the world if you do something like that, but you're just going to be better off typically having more combos. So like just having more quarterbacks gives you more combos in the playoff rounds to potentially hit a big score. So I think that is probably one of the things people do wrong the most. And then like people coming from DFS, I actually just had this conversation yesterday. I think try to treat it like a tournament where you're playing against 700,000 players. So they try to get really unique in their construction. So like I'm only going to draft 3 running backs, or I'm going to draft 10 wide receivers. I don't know. They get a little bit too unique, but it's really not a contest where you're playing against 700,000 people, even though there are on Underdog in Best Ball Mania 670 some thousand entrants. You're never playing against all of them at once. You're playing against 12 for the first 14 weeks of the season, and then you're a pod of 14 to 16. I don't remember the exact pod dynamics, but like you're the biggest pod you're ever in is like 500. So you really don't need to play it super wild like a lot of people do.
Is it a waste of resources to take 2 quarterbacks high in the draft? Is it unfair to see players not taking quarterbacks and start eating them up?
No, that's not anything goes in my opinion. Like, however, if you think it's going to help your team win, just do whatever you need to do to win. I think it's all fair game. Is it a waste of resources? Probably. If you're going like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, or Jaden Daniels, like at that level, I probably wouldn't take 2 on the same team. I've done it before though, so I don't want to like completely say that it's wrong exactly, but it's something that I'm probably not going to have a ton of that in my portfolio, just because if you're taking a quarterback there early, you're kind of counting on them being the guy who's going to put up 350 fantasy points this year. So taking 2 is just only one of them can score each week. So yeah, it's probably generally going to be a spot better spent on a wide receiver or running back there instead of a second quarterback.
I think everybody gets excited when they see, their profile in the first slot position. Do you have a preference of where you draft? I mean, everybody wants to go to first, but is it actually the best slot to have?
I don't think so. I actually really
Really?
don't like the first spot. I mean, I love Jamar Chase, but like you draft later, you basically get, if you draft anywhere in the second half of the draft, you basically get a first round like value in the second round as well. So it's kind of like whereas you take Jamar Chase, it comes back to your turn. Like on Underdog, it's like you're always choosing between Trey McBride, T Higgins. It's like and I like some of those builds, but like I just don't there aren't a ton of players that I want to pull up to that spot at the 2-3 turn. So it gets kind of boring. Whereas if you draft towards the end of the first round, you get a lot of unique combos of like really, really good players. So yeah, I typically would say I prefer to draft like I think spot 6 or 7 is probably my favorite because you can if you draft spot 6 in particular, I think there's kind of a tier of players. Like the first 6 players that typically go, I think is kind of a tier to me. In Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Jameer Gibbs, and CeeDee Lamb. Like to me, that is its own tier. So you draft the last there, and then oftentimes you'll get a faller back to you in the second round who's a great value. So I'd say that's probably my favorite spot.
This- I preface this by saying I'm a huge Georgia Bulldogs fan, so I am also a huge Brock Bowers fan. But honestly, is he too high to take there in the tight end spot? I mean, there's values that you can get later on. I mean, I know that they kind of fall off after Kittle, who I frankly think is the best value at tight
Yeah.
end. Um, I've been staying away from Brock Bowers, even though if I was doing the casual, I'd pick him because he's one of my favorite players. What do you do with guys like Bowers and McBride, who should be a fantasy darling, but if you check the numbers, the touchdowns really haven't been there. What do
Yeah.
you do with those guys? Because they're expensive.
So I do draft them a fair amount. I have moved Brock Bowers down my board a little bit. So he's a player I took a ton early on. I like him better on DraftKings also. Like I'll take him early
Okay.
second round happily because it's a full PPR site and he's just going to rack up I think a ton of receptions this year. So getting a ton of receptions at tight end, I feel like you can really separate from the position. So I actually like both Bowers and McBride better on DraftKings for that reason because I think they're just going to separate from the field as far as just receptions go. Um, on Underdog, yeah, I moved them down a little bit. So I had been drafting a ton. I'm over the field, I think, on all 3 of the elite tight ends, including Kittle in that mix. But I have moved them back a little bit because there are now I feel better about late round tight ends. So there was a while that I just like I don't have a good feel for like who I want at the end. So I'm just going to take the early guy who I think can separate at the position. Now there are some later round clicks at tight end that I like a little bit better. So I've kind of moved away from taking those guys in favor of receivers more often.
Who are some of those clicks that you've been taking later on?
Lately, it's been Tyler Higbee quite a bit.
Okay.
I had been sort of scared off of Higbee because of the Terrence Ferguson draft pick, but then everything I read from Coach Speak is saying, you know what, I think that Terrence Ferguson is someday going to be a great heir apparent to Tyler Higbee. It's not like he's going to take over right now. They talk about Tyler Higbee being a glue for that offense. So if Tyler Higbee just has his usual role, I think he's a really, really strong pick as long as he's healthy and Stafford is healthy. So yeah, I've been drafting a lot of Tyler Higbee. I think Elijah Arroyo now moving up with the Noah Fant cut. I think Elijah Arroyo seems like a pretty good bet. Mason Taylor, I think, is a pretty strong pick back there. And then even like Jatavian Sanders, Theo Johnson, like they haven't been great so far, but I think one of them could take a leap this year. So I draft a lot of those guys as well. But often at the tight end position, I'm also just correlating with my quarterbacks. Like it's usually like most tight ends I think are pretty fairly valued. So I just kind of, whichever quarterback I have, I try to take the tight end that I want with the team that I'm trying to build if I don't get one of the elite 3.
If that Giants offensive line, of course, you can see the paraphernalia in the background here, but if the Giant in my mind, if the Giants offensive line can hold up and Russ can be anything close to what he's been, they have some offensive weapons. Like they could have some fantasy. I love Theo Johnson in the late
Yeah.
rounds. I mean, like neighbors should see a huge bump from last year, I would think. So I mean, it feels like there's opportunities with that offense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I actually I buy into the offense probably more than I should, if I'm being honest. Like anybody, I'll take Malik Neighbors in the first round. Totally fine with that click. I think Wandell Robinson is a pretty fine pick where he goes, particularly on DraftKings again because it's full PPR. But I think he's actually viable on Underdog also because he goes like 170, 180, and he's just a guy who's going to get receptions. And if he can just get a little bit lucky with touchdowns, I think he is a fine click there. You've got Darius Slayton late, I think is a pretty good late round value. Theo Johnson, and then I don't know what to do with the running backs exactly, but I've drafted a lot more Cam Scadaboo than Tyrone Tracy just because he goes a little bit later and seems like the team likes him.
And I mean, probably has opportunities for goal line work, right? That
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy won't get. I get that. You mentioned the PPR on DraftKings. PPR and Superflex have kind of changed the way people draft. What is the biggest change that they've kind of enforced in the way people look at drafts? And do you like it?
For the full PPR.
Yes.
Yeah, I think in general.
More
So
scoring, better. I mean, is that kind of or no? Not necessarily.
So yeah, I love drafting on DraftKings. I think it is, a little bit more fun. You also get 20 rounds there, so it's a little bit of a different format than Underdog. I think I generally prefer it just because on Underdog, at least right now, and actually we're getting to the point in the season where you're getting more casuals in. With more casuals, you're going to get more chaos in your drafts, which I love. Like I just love having chaos because that just means you get more unique combos, you get players falling. On Underdog, like for most of the season, you're dealing with just serious drafters who, there's a lot of people who think pretty similarly. So you don't get a lot of the same opportunities to get falling values on Underdog versus DraftKings. But DraftKings is kind of chaotic throughout the entire summer. It's just like there are a lot more casual players probably coming from DFS, from the sportsbook, etc. As a result, I mean, people should probably focus more on players who catch the ball more, but they don't really enough, in my opinion. Like Derrick Henry, I think actually goes higher on DraftKings than he does on Underdog. And I think there's a lot of cases of that where it's just players who are not going to rack up a lot of receptions are probably a little bit overvalued on DraftKings. But yeah, I think on DraftKings it makes it more like a lot of. I mean, Austin Eckler, good Commanders example. Austin Eckler, really good pick on DraftKings because he's going to rack up so many receptions this year, most likely, and he still goes pretty late. So yeah, there are some differences in the players that I want to target because of the extra half point per reception.
You mentioned like the three big quarterbacks that go early: Lamar, Jaden, and Allen. Um, I'm curious. After that, there's like a fairly good drop off on what happens. Are you snatching one of those three guys earlier, or are you waiting later for like, I don't know, whoever you like later, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, some of these guys that
Yeah.
probably can put up numbers later, but probably don't have nearly the upside as the three that we mentioned earlier?
Yeah. In years past, I think I've been often over the field on the elite quarterbacks. I don't find myself doing it as much this year just because I think it's because there's like a pocket of quarterbacks that's like 15 deep that I think are all pretty strong bets. So like I like the players you just mentioned. I like Dak where he goes. I'm a big JJ McCarthy fan. I'm a Minnesota guy, Vikings fan. Love JJ McCarthy, Drake May, Bo Nix. Like I think there are so many strong bets, particularly with all the sophomores this year looking really strong, that I often will wait and take three of those guys later rather than going for an elite and just doing a two quarterback build. I probably don't do it enough though. Like I still think there is a lot of value in those elite guys. You look at Lamar Jackson's numbers last year. Not only did he put up a huge number of points, but he was just consistent week over week. He had very few weeks that he was not going to be your starting quarterback. So I do think they are quite valuable. It's just a matter of like what can you get later. And oftentimes I think I'll get better quarterbacks later than I will like wide receivers or running backs. So I usually try to focus on the skill positions first.
Is there any difference between those three elites that we're kind of talking about, or pick your poison?
Yeah, pick your poison. I think they're all great. Like I would not be shocked if Jaden Daniels is the highest scoring fantasy quarterback this year as long as he can stay healthy. I think probably I would take Lamar first before Josh Allen, just based on how good he was last year. But I really think they're all pretty similar.
Is it odd that Derrick Henry to me is like not what fantasy is anymore, really, if you know what I mean? Like we worry so much about target shares and receptions for all players on the field. And Derrick Henry seems like one of the lone guys that really produces without getting a lot of touches in the passing game. Anomaly?
Yeah, totally anomaly. I mean, we've got a few of those guys. I typically don't target them. I do like on Underdog a little bit more than DraftKings, but like it just raises your floor and your ceiling so much if you are involved in the passing game. So I keep on expecting some regression from Derrick Henry. He can't keep getting away with this. He probably will keep getting away with it, but I keep on drafting it. So at some point, like you're gonna age out of this. Things are just not gonna go perfectly for you. But yeah, he's just breaking the game.
Are you drafting Barkley this year?
More than last year, yeah. I actually think
Really?
I'll probably be yeah, my guess is that I'll be a little bit under the field just because I've always taken Justin Jefferson over him, but he's been falling down to, like, the 5th pick often recently, and usually if he falls to the 5th pick, I will take him. Just the offensive line there is so good, so he's part of the, like, the archetype of running back that I don't typically take, where it's just He's aging. He had a billion carries last year. I'm expecting, and he goes early. So like I'm expecting some sort of regression there. But at the same time, the offensive line, just the environment there for the Eagles is good enough that I'm like, yeah, he's still probably a pretty good bet. I'll likely be under the field. But yeah, I think I'll probably have 5-6%.
The name of the game for years feels like it's putting together good stacks as you go along in these builds. Do you have some favorite stacks this year?
I love the Vikings, and it's not just homerism. Like I just think it sets up perfectly for JJ McCarthy. I think
I like
Kevin O'Connell
McCarthy a
is,
lot.
yeah, like O'Connell's just like KOC is great.
Well, yeah.
Um, the weapons are obviously awesome, and then they really improved the offensive line. They're playing in a dome, just like everything sets up so well that if he is like good, he could absolutely crush because they've had a lot of quarterbacks who are not thought to be good have had a lot of success in that system.
Which running back are you choosing out of those two? I've heard a lot of people that like Mason better than Jones.
I actually do. I think I'm one of those people. I it actually depends on the site. So on DraftKings, I like Aaron Jones quite a bit because Jordan
Right.
Mason not really involved in the passing game.
Mhm.
On Underdog, I like I struggle to take like I can't get myself to click Jordan Mason when Aaron Jones is still there. I've thought about it, but I usually will just pass on Aaron Jones then, thinking if one of these guys makes it back to me, I'll be happy to get either one of them. So yeah, Jordan Mason, I think it's just the Vikings traded a draft pick to get him when they didn't have a ton of draft picks. They keep on talking about wanting to use him at the goal line. He was pretty good last year when he was healthy and playing. So I think all things considered, and we saw Aaron Jones actually last year, like ceding carries to Cam Akers, which to me is a pretty bad sign when you're ceding Akers to Cam Akers, that maybe the coaching staff does not fully believe you can take on a full workload. So I think Aaron Jones probably going to get the better workload early on, but I think there's a ton of contingent value for Jordan Mason and some standalone value. So ultimately, I click him more.
What do you make of the San Francisco offense? It's like Kyle Shanahan always makes sure to make it happen. This is why I brought up Kittle earlier with some of the injuries to the wide receivers. I really think that there could be a big target share for Kittle this year, and I'm not sure what that does to McCaffrey. And are you scared about McCaffrey? I think I'm still scared about McCaffrey from years and years of McCaffreyism, and I can't
Yeah.
force myself to click that button. What do you make of that group?
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on McCaffrey. Very, very scared of that situation. I think I'll end up underweight. Honestly, he was a second round pick for a while, and I was not clicking him, which I do kind of regret that now. I wish I had a little bit more second round McCaffrey, but now that he's up to like seventh overall,
Mhm.
it's tough for me just because I think there are a lot of strong bets there that are a lot safer than he is. So yeah, I'll be underweight there. Kittle, I think is great. Yeah, I think Kittle is just we know how good he is. He's maybe the best tight end overall in the NFL, and from a fantasy standpoint, he is among the best. And who like he's always been better when Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk misses time. Well, now they traded Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk probably going to miss a fair amount of time this year. Now I hope that Jawan Jennings is good. I've been drafting a ton of Jawan Jennings, but I don't think that he's on the level of Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk when they're healthy. So yeah, I'm expecting a pretty big target share there for Kittle. Like I said, I draft a fair amount of Jawan Jennings. I think I'm a little bit underweight on Ricky Pearsall, which I talked to some people who I really respect who are really in on him. So I think maybe I need to wake up to Pearsall a little bit more than I have so far. I'm kind of staying away from Brandon Ayuk. I used to draft a fair amount. I think I'm getting a little bit sketched out by the Ayuk situation, so I'm holding off on that click right now.
CJ Stroud or Jordan Love?
That's a great question. I think Jordan Love. I think the Packers offense. I think they're going to throw a little bit more this year. Really love the double click with Tucker Kraft that you can do at around pick 120, 130. So yeah, I think I would go with Jordan Love at least for this year from a fantasy standpoint is what I mean by that. Long term, CJ Stroud could be great, but the offensive line still really concerns me there in Houston. So yeah, I'll break the tie to Jordan Love.
It's a Commanders podcast. Are there any Commanders that you're interested in this year?
Yeah, I mean, love Jade. Like if I can get
Uh,
Jaden Daniels, I just
yes.
got him at the 4-5 turn in a DraftKings draft.
Oh, wow.
With Terry McLaurin's holdout situation, like people are getting a little bit frightened of that. So that used to be like if you didn't, if they weren't gone by the 3-4 turn, like that people would just double click that. But I think because of the holdout, they're falling a little bit. So yeah, love Jaden this year. I think Terry McLaurin I did like him as a pick before the holdout. I am a little bit concerned. So now it's like I'll take him if he falls, but I'm not taking him at ADP currently just because of that concern a little bit. Um, Not taking a ton of Brian Robinson. I think just haven't got quite as much positive coach speak this year. He was not like the most efficient running back last year. So then I am taking a fair amount of Eckler. Just betting that maybe Eckler gets a little bit more work, and regardless, I think he'll have that passing game work. So I like Eckler quite a bit. Take a fair amount of Zach Ertz, particularly on Jaden Daniels stacks, but I'll take him even without Jaden Daniels if he goes late enough that I think he's a pretty strong pick. And then occasionally I'll take Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I've been burned by these late round rookie picks before, where everybody's hyping them up and then they get cut. So I'm a little bit wary of taking too much, but I think he's a fun late round click, particularly on DraftKings with the 20 rounds.
I think he's going to get a big workload at least by the middle of the season. He's a different dude than what they have on the roster right now. I mean,
Yeah.
Eckler might have been that dude, 5 years ago, and he's still going to get a lot of work. I've got a bunch of Eckler myself, and I'm totally with you on Ertz for cost. I mean, I was a touchdown machine the second half of last year, and one of Jaden's favorite targets. So I'm with you there. Neil, we wrap these things with a rookie versus the vet. So I went to Football Guys, pulled the ADP, and I will give you a rookie and a vet at cost, and you tell me who you like.
Okay.
Okay. So Drake London at 18 or Ted McMillan at 58?
So at cost, who would I prefer? That's a great one. Probably Drake London. I love Tet too. I take a ton of both of them, but I think Drake London just safer. Like we know what he is. An 18, that's a really nice spot for Drake London. I think he could have a huge year, particularly in PPR. Like he just could see a ton of passing volume this year. We used to have the concerns with Kyle Pitts, maybe eating into that. I don't think that's a huge concern anymore for us. So I think Drake London just sets up to have potentially a ton of volume this year. And who knows with Michael Penix, like if he is any good, he could totally unlock Drake London. So I think it would have to be London for me out of those two.
Are drafters sleeping on what that Panthers offense might be?
Yeah, I mean, I think so a little bit again because Tet I think could be really good. Even though I didn't pick him, I think Tet is a great pick where he goes in drafts and could just see a ton of volume. I think Bryce Young might be like he was kind of starting to show something last year. He was running a little bit more, so he's sort of a fun like mid round quarterback pick for me also. Yeah, so like if Bryce is running a little bit more, now he's got a top receiving weapon. I mean, Adam Thielen is a guy who was getting a lot of volume, but like we kind of thought he was like he's on the decline in his career. I thought he was probably done when he left the Vikings. He's had a little resurgence, so to his credit, he's been better than anybody expected. But I still think like if that is your best receiver, your receiving core is just not that good. So I think you bring in an alpha and Tet McMillan, he could just really improve the offense quite a bit. I think Chuba is pretty good runner. I think, and then they add Rico Dowdle. I think it could be a little bit slept on.
Ashton Genty or at 11 or Kenneth Walker at 46?
It's probably Kenneth Walker for me. Yeah, I think of myself as a
I've had
rookie
more
lover.
people come on this show telling me you're not drafting enough. I don't care how much Kenneth Walker you're drafting, it's not enough.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of people like the value based on where people are ranking him is like a third round value, and we're getting him in the fourth round, late fourth round, early in fifth round in best ball. So I do think that it is probably Kenneth Walker. Like I think Genty is a fine pick in the first round, but he's just not like a great value there. There is still clearly some risk there that offense is just not any good. Whereas Kenneth Walker, like he's just proven himself at the NFL level. I think the team really likes him, and he's just a little bit undervalued right now.
Some of these next ones were a little tough just because of how the draft went, but we'll go McBride at 25 or Tyler Warren at 107.
Oh, that's a good one. I think it's McBride for me also. So yeah, I guess I'm just a vet lover. I just think McBride. Like, I mean, also is that PPR? Do you know if that's PPR or?
I don't know how they broke it down.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's for underdog, but I guess I should check that. I'm not 100% sold on that. I bet it's on a half PPR.
Okay, half PPR I still think is probably Trey McBride. If it was full PPR, for sure Trey McBride. If it was 0 PPR, then I would probably go Warren. But I think half PPR, it's still McBride for me. I just think he gets enough passing volume, probably due for some touchdown positive regression. I think I'll break the tie towards McBride there.
Are you drafting Kyler Murray?
I am. I think Kyler Murray, like he goes late enough that he's a
Yeah.
pretty strong pick. Rushed for I want to see rushed for like 500 some yards last year. He clearly has that upside there. Maybe Marvin Harrison takes a step forward this year, as well as McBride continuing to ascend. So yeah, I think Kyler's actually a pretty strong pick where he goes.
There weren't any rookies worth doing in the quarterback. Is this the weirdest first overall pick Cam Ward that we've had in a long time, right? Like, and he actually at cost may perform this year. I'm not sure of that, but
Yeah,
it's just so odd that there is no buzz for the number one overall pick.
it is. It is very odd. Yeah, I actually draft him a fair amount. It's easy to do back stacks there. Like if my quarterbacks get sniped, it's like, all right, I guess I'll do another Cam Ward with Chigakonkwo, or I'll do an Elic Ayamanor, like some weird late stacks with the Titans. Yeah, no, he is a strange one. People talk about like JD McCarthy. I've had people tell me like JD McCarthy would have been far and away the top pick in this year's draft class,
Sure.
which just goes to show how much better last year's draft class was for quarterbacks than this year.
Yeah, ain't no doubt. Which is why there's no rookie that I included on the quarterbacks here, but I did like this one a little bit. Burrow at 41 or Dak at 104.
I think it's Dak at 104. I just think that the value is a little bit better there. JJ Zacharyson, who I know you just had on, has done a lot of research on quarterback like points year to year and passing quarterbacks. There's just a lot. Don't correlate quite as strongly. So Burrow had a really great year last year, but if the touchdowns regress a little bit, could take a step back. Whereas Dak, I think you add George Pickens, and could have a little bit of positive regression in terms of some of those passing stats. So yeah, I think it's Dak at those price tags.
You drafting more of DK Metcalf or George Pickens?
George Pickens for me, which I just learned today that he's sharing a suite right now with Aaron Rodgers. So maybe it's a mistake that I'm not taking more DK Metcalf. But yeah, I think Pickens it's a stronger offense overall. Aaron Rodgers historically, likes to slow down the game quite a bit, which is pretty bad for fantasy. So yeah, I've been drafting more Pickens, but I do think Metcalf probably somebody I need to start mixing in more than I have.
And last one, are there any guys that you're just staying completely away from?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's probably I have not taken a ton of Travis Etienne. I guess he's one that I like. I don't know that I have any complete zeros that I'm just like, this is a bet I'm making. I'm going to take zero. Like I said, I'm going to do 1,000 some drafts. So I'm probably going to have
The players
some
will
of
be
everybody.
drafted.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not going to have complete zeros. But like, yeah, I think Travis Etienne is somebody that I haven't drafted a ton. I probably want to bump him up so I get like 3% or something. But yeah, I think currently I have like virtually zero shares, just because I've been betting more on Bashal Tutin, Tank Bigsby. But there was a little bit of, training camp. Like he's the first guy getting all the passes. It sounded like all of the passing work going to Travis Etienne. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to completely rule out that he could be the top running back there. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there are any others that I am completely out on right now. I wouldn't say that I'm completely out on anybody. Javante, a guy that I don't draft a ton, but again, like I'm trying to mix him in a little bit more than I have been. Again, I'll usually just take the cheaper Miles Sanders there. But if Javante is the top guy, then I'm going to regret it. So I want to make sure I have some shares.
This was great, man. I really appreciate it. I had fun. I think we learned some stuff. Hopefully, we can get you back on and do a best ball draft.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be fun. Yes. Thanks for having me on. This is cool.
All right, buddy. Thank you.